Oh boy, Cartoon Chrysler. If you haven't seen my Halloween update, go check it out before you watch these videos. Anyway, the first bad episode I'm going to be reviewing from a cartoon is Jimmy Neutron Send in the Clones. Yes, I am aware that other bad episodes like Carl Weezer Boy Genius is far worse, but I really don't want to suffer through that bad episode. I'd rather suffer the less terrible, which is this one. But even if this one isn't as bad as the other episode, this episode is just painful to go through. The story is about that Jimmy was about to go to outer space to get some space crystals, but her mother stops him because he has to do some chores. So after getting optional advices from Goddard, he gets the idea to clone himself. I would immediately go at the problems that this episode has, but I'll get to them later. And due to the fact that the machine that Jimmy uses has some kind of problem that has the other clones have different personalities, you can tell that things are just going to get even more worse. I'll get to more of that later on, like I said. When one clone, either Jimmy, is completely on loose while the others try to catch him, unfortunately, Jimmy has to accept the inevitable by using his space crystals he used in outer space to froze all of his clones. Unfortunately, not the evil Jimmy, which means he's on the use. Okay, I know I talked about this story really fast, but oh my god, there was a lot wrong with this episode. Before we get to one of the worst parts, let's get into one of the minor problems. The minor problem is that Jimmy thinks that having clothes is a good idea. Now, this is the only time I kind of blame him on that because he should have tested the clones instead of just going along with it. Especially he's supposed to be intelligent. But since that the wires completely made him go, forget it, let's just go to space and get the crystals, and we can highly doubt that anything bad is going to happen. That's what they did to Jimmy here. They completely made him so oblivious about this whole clones problem thing. And due to the multiple personalities from the other clones, they cause bad luck. And I will get to the other characters later because they're really terribly executed, especially the ending of this episode. Now I can understand that Jimmy wants to do these activities to get better equipment like ice cream or other stuff, but you couldn't just make a robot or anything. I mean, I don't think your mother can be very aware that you have a cyborg doing all the chores. I mean, it may make things much faster for clones, but seriously, it's not that difficult to develop a cyborg, especially that you're really good at making robots. Okay, he's not as good as making inventions, but he at least should know way better to not clone himself. And now let's get into one of the big problems of this episode. The biggest problems of this episode is the clones themselves. Not only is some of them annoying, but they also are too obvious to know that that's not really the real Jimmy. For one, the hairstyle, and second, the voices. How can Sheen, Carla, and even Cindy completely ignore the fact that Jimmy had different voices in the clones? It just doesn't work. I mean, it can't be awkward, but the fact that this is the second season and they're actually this dumb enough to think that that's really the real Jimmy, it just really boggles my mind a lot. And let's get into the part where they talk to his dad about the problems that they got from Jimmy. Now, characters like Carl, Nick, and even the guy who got Python on his face is kind of acceptable because it's actually kind of cool when Jimmy just told Carl that he's going to be dust in the wind, which makes sense because that's actually kind of mean. However, the other characters like Cindy, Jimmy's grandma, and Sheen are very, very poor and very stupid. Jimmy's grandma wants revenge on Jimmy because she got Smile, which causes his teeth to fall out. That is a stupid excuse. I know it's very sad that old ladies or men don't have teeth anymore, but this is actually kind of taking it way too seriously. I mean, you can easily put it back in your mouth. It's not that difficult. And let's get into the clones themselves, more specifically Evil Jimmy. Evil Jimmy is just basically an evil villain, and that's basically it. I'm not kidding. Even when he returns in Trouble with Clones, his evil plan of having a dangerous, evil-sided planet doesn't even work out because this is pretty much the only times we're ever going to see him. And let's talk about the ending of this episode. When Jimmy told his friends, well, not really all of his friends, the story about why he made the clones, Evil Jimmy appears and this happens. For some random out of nowhere reason, they turn on Jimmy. Here's another thing. Even though that Jimmy made the clones on accident, he also didn't cause all the problems to his friends. He didn't even insult Carl, it was just his clone. And not only that, why did they turn to Jimmy to go against him? Because he forgot to take down his evil clone. Yes, it does lead to the events of Trouble with Clones, but this is considered way too overreactive from the other characters. Out of all the mistakes that Jimmy did in the show, this is nowhere near as terrible. Why is it not terrible? Because all this was a misunderstanding. And the fact that the characters are just so overreacted, they decide to turn on Jimmy because of this. Of course, Jimmy would never go against his friends. And to add to the problems with this episode, Carl and Sheen are out of character. Yes, I can understand that they have to supposed to have depth in those characters to be furious at some points, but when they turned on Jimmy, it just feels kind of out of place. I mean, the other four kind of, but Carl and Sheen really doesn't. It just feels very forced, if you ask me. I really despised the ending because of how the writers have to force the characters to be going against Jimmy at the end, even though he didn't cause any of the problems he did. I mean, he forgot to froze Evil Jimmy. I can understand that. But there's no reason to go against him, considering the fact that he didn't throw the pie into the man's face. Oh my god. And besides, considering the fact that Evil Jimmy only has one episode after this, it's just very disappointing that we don't get to see the characters' new opinions on Evil Jimmy after this. And it's really sad that it still stuck that way even to this day. I really hate this episode. Not as worse as Carl Weasel Boy Genius, but I can't tolerate this episode at all. It's just painful to watch. Out of all the episodes that you should probably skip from Jimmy Neutron, this is one of them. And as for Trouble with Clones, skip that as well since we don't get an actual conclusion on this entire story arc. I really still feel bad that Jimmy Neutron still didn't get a fourth season, even to this day, after 10 long years. Anyway, this episode deserves a 2.5 out of 10. And trust me guys, there's gonna be a lot of low ratings when I review these episodes. Anyway, up next is MOP Just for Sidekicks.